Thanks for tuning in to the Drive On podcast, where we're focused on giving hope and strength to the entire military community. Whether you're a veteran, active duty, guard, reserve, or a family member, this podcast will share inspirational stories and resources that are useful to you. I'm your host, Scott DeLuzio, and now let's get on with the show. Hey everybody, welcome back to Drive On. I'm your host, Scott DeLuzio, and today my guest is Mark Kershaw. He's a passionate advocate for veterans' mental health and the creator of the powerful documentary Tribal. Mark's journey as an Afghanistan veteran and Army infantryman has led him to a mission-driven endeavor aimed at destigmatizing mental health struggles and addressing the alarming rise in suicide rates among service members. Through his documentary, Mark seeks to spark meaningful conversations and foster a sense of community and understanding among veterans and their loved ones. And with that, I want to welcome you to the show, Mark. I'm really glad to have you here.
Hey, thanks for having me, Scott. Glad to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So talked about the documentary, Tribal. I had an opportunity to watch that a few days ago. Really great documentary, really well done. Definitely, I want to encourage people to go out and take that in and watch the documentary. But before we get into the documentary and what it's all about and everything, I want to kind of talk about you and your
Yeah.
personal experiences. Can you share your experiences as a soldier who
Yeah.
fought in Afghanistan? What was your experience like?
Yeah. That's a great question. So I joined in 2006. So I joined right as the Iraq surge was happening. I was a surge baby. Took me 5 years to get out of high school. So they liked me so much they invited me back for another year. Wasn't a great student. So I needed something. I think I was failing every single class, like up to December, and we were supposed to graduate in June. And I was like, oh man, I'm gonna be a loser, right? So then I got on my high horse. I talked to a recruiter, and then I found kind of like a purpose in that moment of like, yeah, I want to be airborne. I want to be Ranger. I want to be all this stuff, right? So they said, hey, you can go in and join on this DEP program. At the time of the DEP program, you can join and with a promissory of like, hey, you're going to swear in now, but you have to graduate and you swear in again, right? So if you don't graduate, it like breaks the contract. So that
Okay.
was like kind of my North Star. I had like a purpose. And then from that point on, I got on my high horse and just aced everything and graduated like the skin of my teeth. Maybe like a 2.05 or something like that. I was pretty happy. So went up there, graduated in June, shipped off the basic in August, and went through basic infantry and airborne training. Didn't get a Ranger contract. They didn't give that to me, but I got airborne. So went through the basic training, went through airborne. And then funny enough, I got a mechanized contract, which was because I went needs of the Army. So everyone that was kind of shipping off to Iraq at that time, you were just kind of in 2006, you were going to everything, the first thing smoking. So I did my tour in Iraq first in 2008 to 2009. It was supposed to be 15 months, but it ended up being 12 months. And I re-enlisted there, got my stripes over there as a sergeant, re-enlisted for the 82nd Airborne. That's where I wanted to be. So I was like, this is the only way I'm going to get to go there. Iraq's kind of dying down at the time. I want to go to Afghanistan. I want to be back in the fight, right? So went there, went to the 82nd Airborne. As soon as we get there, we get put on something called the GRF. So if you don't know what the GRF is, it's called the Global Response Force. So it's basically like in case stuff happens, like where the in case stuff happens, people, right?
It's like the QRF, but like for the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The QRF for the world. That's the 82nd's like real mission, not to deploy to Iraq and Afghanistan all these times with everyone else on a regular pack start. It's in case something happens, like Libya or something like that. In case something happens, we're supposed to, put a brigade of paratroopers out there. So as soon as I got there, I'm like, yeah, we're going to go to Afghanistan. I can't wait, man. I'm going to get back in this fight. I saw all these documentaries. And as soon as I get there, they're like, you're going 3rd Brigade, GRF. And I was like, what's that? They're like, good luck. I'm like, what's that? No, seriously, why is everybody like laughing at me? So I get there and they're like, yeah, we're not deploying for like a year and a half. I'm like, oh my God. So it's just like nothing but training. The former JSOC commander in Ranger Regiment was our battalion commander. Major General Evans, or he might have gotten promoted even more now, but he took over Ranger Regiment. He was our battalion commander, and we were just in the field nonstop, just like in the field every week, just training, rocking. I didn't even know what trans was. We didn't drive anywhere. So did that for about a year and a half. Everyone's like, we're never deploying. Then we got the call. We were out the door in like 3 weeks. So we did something called, it was like the operational ready force or something like that. where they put us in a really bad area, which was the Ghazni province to support one of our sister brigades, 1st Brigade. They had already taken like 100 casualties within like 7 months or something like that. And what they wanted us to do was deploy with one of the OD groups, right? ODA 11, it was out of Okinawa, and basically occupy the enemy's movement in like little Taliban hotbeds, right? So it was a direct action mission. So we would deploy them in just a battalion size element, 3 infantry companies and some support companies, and then basically go to areas where they saw were Taliban hotbeds in that AO and then just start trouble basically, right? So we did that. As soon as we got there, my platoon took casualties the first 7 days. It's in the documentary. Omar and Brashard, we didn't even get to the actual mission. It was a left seat, right seat ride with 1st Brigade. One of the guys, Sergeant Marlowe, still love that guy to this day from 1st Brigade. And I remember we were doing like this first mission, and he was like, "Hey, we're gonna go down this road because our mission is moving to contact." He was like, "The last 3 out of 5 times we've down this road, we've taken contact." And most of my platoon had never saw combat before because they were, specialists and below that have been in the army for 2.5 years and they've been on
Sure.
GRF this whole damn time. So we go down there, we do, bounding overwatch. The weapon squad goes up, and then my squad is starting to move out with the element, and then the weapon starts getting pelted and whatnot. And then that whole engagement, I'm not going to spoil it for everyone, but whole engagement goes off. And that's where we took our first couple casualties. And then we spent about 100 days. It was a 100-day deployment in Afghanistan. It was a pretty decent deployment. It was pretty cool to not just like drive around an AO and do things like, it was in Iraq at the time, but it was like direct action, going over the Paktika province, Logar. I mean, we were all over RCE. So that was my last deployment before I got out, but it was a pretty
And
kinetic one.
and what year was that again?
That was 2011, 2012.
Okay.
Yeah, Gaza
Okay.
province. Yeah, so that was kind of like this. I hit both surges, you can say. I hit the surge of Iraq and I hit the surge of Afghanistan. So that was like my 2 deployments.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
timeline-wise, I'm just trying to, like, piece things together and everything, so, like, when you got in, it was, like, maybe, like, a month or 2, after I finished basic training, that's when you
Yeah,
started, so
exactly.
I'm piecing all this stuff together, and when you were just talking what you were just talking about 2011 timeframe, that was right after I got out of Afghanistan,
Oh, wow.
yeah, so I was in
Oh,
20,
wow.
and so we're, like, almost, like, at the same, like, we just miss each other probably by just a little bit, like, on
Yeah,
all of these things. It's
that's funny.
pretty funny.
That's funny.
Um, so let's talk about the documentary. So,
Mhm.
for the folks who haven't seen it, aren't familiar with the documentary Tribal, um, so it talks about some, uh pretty heavy topics, some pretty serious topics. Sometimes the taboo topics, right? Suicide and PTSD and other things like that. Challenges of reintegration, right? And
Yeah,
it's the kind of stuff that we talk about on this show too, because um, we got to start talking about these things and having
yeah,
conversations about it because we're losing people. People are thinking to themselves that they're all alone in this struggle and nobody
yeah,
else understands them. It's like, well, that's a bunch of crap.
yeah,
Like there are
yeah,
people out there, we understand it.
yeah,
And we, a lot of times we've been through it and we want to help. And
yeah.
so tell us like what inspired you to make this film and what did you hope to achieve? What were your goals? What did you hope to achieve with
Yeah, well, I just it's pretty simple. The mission statement is I don't want any veteran to ever feel alone. I want them to know it's okay not to be okay and talk to somebody, right? That's the
Sure.
the first step. And then for a lot of the allies or the civilian community, a lot of them are just like 3 degrees of separation from a veteran, or maybe they're very close to a veteran. They don't understand because we don't talk. So
Yeah.
it kind of peels back the covers a little bit or the curtain, so to speak, and lets them know really what's going on. And it really opens their eyes. Like the ally community has been one of our biggest supporters. The veteran community supports heavily, but it's more like DMs, right? And like behind the scenes, like, hey man, this really hit me. But the allies are the ones that are they're just shocked that like their friends are going through this or brothers or sisters or whatever. So
Right.
that's a big thing. It's raising awareness, and it's taken it beyond just PTSD. There's bigger problems than PTSD, in my opinion. I think every time something happens, they always like peg it to PTSD. And I wanted to broaden the conversation that it's not just PTSD. I believe when you walk out of those gates for the last time, it may not hit you like day one, day 10, 365, or 5 years from now. It's going to hit you one day. You're going to have a lost sense of purpose, community,
Mhm.
and identity, right? I'm no longer fighting a war, right? I'm
Yep.
no longer serving Kershaw. And I'm not with my brothers to the left and right of me that can understand what I'm going through just by a look. And that's ripped from you as soon as you get out, but you don't realize it because you're still thinking about I'm gonna wake up at 8 a.m. and hit the gym and never run 5 miles. That's what your mindset is, right?
Right.
And I'm never gonna stand a parade rest for another grown man. Like those are the things you're thinking of when you're getting out. And you're just not thinking about the right things or maybe the effects of not just war, but being in a brotherhood like that and being incubated from what society is today in your own little like false reality.
Yeah.
So I think that's what we're trying to raise awareness on because it's not always the guys that saw heavy combat that are committing suicide.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And PTSD has, many different, uh, forms, I guess,
Yeah,
you can call it, right?
exactly.
A
Yeah,
lot of people, get it, and it may come from maybe not even a combat related thing. It could be,
yeah,
something like a car accident or something
yeah,
along those lines, right?
yeah,
But it doesn't always lead to the, that terrible, situation where people are taking their lives, right?
yeah,
Not to say that it never does. It certainly does,
yeah,
but you're right. There are those issues, that lost sense of identity, sense of purpose, sense of
yeah,
belonging to a community
yeah,
of people, and knowing that you fit in a group, and you get out and you lose all that stuff. Like you said, it gets ripped away from you. Um,
yeah,
now what? Not like now who are you? Now how do you find that
yeah,
new sense of purpose and sense
yeah,
of belonging and meaning, and where does that come from? Uh, we've all gone through that. We've all
yeah,
had situations where we're like, "Holy crap, I'm never gonna be that badass guy again,"
yeah,
for those of us who relate with, being a badass,
yeah, right.
you know,
Yeah, I'm filling out
um
an Excel spreadsheet now. Like,
yeah, exactly, like,
who,
where's the sense of purpose
yeah,
and meaning in that? Like, who gives
yeah,
a damn about,
yeah,
whether this Excel spreadsheet looks pretty enough, or, whatever, that,
exactly.
and God forbid you're doing PowerPoint presentations or something, right?
Oh yeah, you misspell someone's name or just like,
Yeah,
the sales numbers are off. Yeah, I deal with it all, man. I'm in sales today and, you just, it's a different mindset, man. And it
it
takes a
is.
long time or for not everyone. Some people, it takes a long time
Sure,
to
sure.
readjust what the new norm is for you.
And, honestly, so I was in the National Guard, and
Hmm.
so I had a civilian job, uh,
Hmm.
when I got out, and so for me, the transition was a little bit easier probably than for some of the active
Yeah.
duty folks, right? Because
Yeah.
it was just now I had an extra weekend that was free, that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
exactly. Yeah.
But there was still that sense of purpose and belonging in that community. The guys that
Yeah.
I served with, they were going off and they were continuing to serve, and they didn't have their weekends free, but they were going off and spending it together, doing
Yeah.
their training and everything. Whatever they were doing, I wasn't
Yeah.
doing anymore, and so
Yeah.
there was that community that I lost. So, um,
Yeah.
even for the reserves, National Guard, like they have that same issue sometimes too, where they're losing that. I mean, it's a little bit different than active duty, but they're still having some of those same types of issues. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so getting back to the documentary, you're talking about these types of topics to raise
Hmm.
awareness, not only
Yeah.
amongst the veterans and the military community, but also the allies, the supporters of the
Yeah.
military who, maybe they didn't serve, but they want to help those who did serve.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
if they don't know the issues that we're going through, because we don't talk about them because we're stubborn and, bullheaded,
Hmm.
whatever,
Yeah.
we just don't do it.
Yeah.
How are they going to help? How are they going to know what it is that they can do to help? And so you talk to like a bunch of different veterans, firsthand
Yep.
account from them. Um, tell us about the process of collaborating with these guys and how their
Yeah.
stories contributed to the film and
Yeah.
what the mission was.
Yeah. So when I came up with this idea, I was very, very direct on I wanted three separate people that didn't know each other. I felt like some of these documentaries, when you come back from it, you identify them with that unit.
Uh,
That in my opinion. Like, oh, they came back and they had that hard deployment and, that's why they are. So you get one perspective of it, right? One unit and you identify them as that unit. So I wanted three separate guys, three didn't know each other. The only common denominator was me. So I could validate that they weren't telling BS, right?
sure.
I didn't want any, false stuff going on. So I knew them. I knew them personally, either in the military, professionally. So I brought them together. So I wanted them to be good storytellers. I wanted them to be authentic and just good people. And then also wanted to be around the mission, right? They weren't doing it to get clout. They weren't doing it for any other reason but to help. I know these guys. So I picked, Omar, who was my platoon sergeant, which I thought I knew his stories were crazy and I knew some of the stuff he was going through and just was a good dude. He's a warrior, right? Breaking case of war. He needs to be behind a glass, right? Like he's just a warrior and just like good heart, great heart, one of the best human beings I've ever met, a guy I really respect and love. He's like a brother to me and he's just a warrior, man. I remember the first time we took contact in Afghanistan before that mission, right? Um, we were kind of sitting in a dirt berm and like first grade stuck us in like a dirt berm, like thanks. It's just like a half mound thing. And we were running out of water doing our operations out of this thing for a couple of days, hot as hell. And second platoon goes out. So we went in order. First platoon went out, second platoon went out, third platoon went out. And every platoon got engaged that day or got in some sort of engagement. And then second platoon walks out. As soon as they walk out the little wire, some guy, guy with an AK started popping off at him. This is like the first time we've heard it since we've been there, right? Like direct at us. So there's like a couple guys like freaking out, trying to get on like, they're trying to get up this cookie crust stuff. They're falling. Like I remember one of my guys that was a little out of shape. He like falls and like he's dragging down the thing. And it's like really kind of funny to watch everyone that hadn't experienced combat before, like their first, like, oh, the adrenaline
Yeah.
pumping. And um, I look over and Hernandez doesn't have a kit on, like doesn't have anything on because I think he was shaving or like washing his body or something. He's up there like no shirt, just like scanning. He's like, where are these MFers at, cuz? He's like completely exposed. Like I'm like, and this is going on. I'm just watching. I was like, "God, man, this guy is just a warrior, man. Like,
Yeah.
just great to see. Like, no fear, putting himself out there for somebody else. And it was, that was great, man. And then you got Wade. He's just a character himself with the long hair.
Yeah.
He was in Fallujah, Ramadi, and the invasion. I mean, three of the worst you can think of when you think about Iraq, right? And
Right.
then,
Right.
and a great unit. He's a Marine to the core. Uh, just a great human, very articulate and a very good storyteller. And he's authentic and he went through his own stuff. And then Michael, who's kind of like in the middle, very direct, straight at you, but he has a crazy story himself and he has a different way of telling it. So when people watch it, they're all such three different personalities and they're different perspectives that you might hit a different person identifies with Michael more, Wade more, Omar more. So I wanted that differentiation between the three and
Sure.
collaborating with them was awesome. They were so easy to work with and my brothers.
Yeah. And the stories as I was watching it, they came through. Um, you could tell that these guys have been there. This was no BS. They were not
Yeah.
bullshitting us. They
Yeah. Yeah.
it was like they were there. They experienced this. This was deeply personal to them, and
Yeah.
they realize there are other people who, yeah, they weren't in that same exact firefight that they were in, or that same exact situation that they were in, but they've been in some situations, and
Yeah.
they're there to share their stories, not like you said, not for any clout or, to, you know, get recognized on the street or any of that kind of that's not what they were there for. They were there to share their stories and be like, "Hey, man, you are not alone. We've been
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
We understand this." And so you guys talk about this, um, the loss of community getting out and,
Mhm,
the loss of people, while
mhm.
you're in even, and, the loss of, the purpose and community. Um, in Tell us about the approach, like, what was the thought process behind, sharing these stories and how you were trying to get it to resonate with the viewers?
Yeah, so what I wanted to do was I didn't wanna approach a movie about suicide because I didn't think anyone was gonna watch it.
Sure.
If that's what it looked like on the thing, if that's what you opened up the scene with, I think we would lose people. What I wanted to do was build up these heroes, in which they are, and I'm not, bullshitting, like, they are heroes, right?
Mhm.
And I wanted to build up and show how strong they were, how proud they were, how confident they were talking about that, and then take a shift of the transition. And almost like I thought about it like if anyone watches a lot of films, Christopher Nolan, you don't know what he's doing until he does it, like in some of his flicks like
Sure.
Inception and stuff. If anyone watches Tribal, you notice there's a direct turn at one point. It almost does a
Yeah.
180. And
Yeah.
that was very intentional. That was very intentional the way we did it. And that was my vision was I want to build it up and it almost looked like just a regular cool documentary of watching these heroes and then like, oh, now we're out, like
Yeah.
a quick turn.
Yep.
And that's, my directors, Lewis and Brandon Borrego were amazing at that. I mean, those guys did, it was their first film, you know, they were so good. We got, 7 hours of film.
Mm.
They pieced it all together and they were really good. And, we went back and forth and collaborated on all this stuff, but they did a really good job storytelling and meeting the vision that I wanted. And also like telling me when I was wrong. Like, no, Mark, this doesn't work. This will work. This will work. Because some of the ideas they brought to the table, I wasn't 100% for. Like if you watch the film, there's like smoke, blue and red smoke. They were
Yeah.
telling me about it. I was like, "What? Red smoke? Like, what is that?" Because I didn't have $1 million, right?
Sure.
I had a good amount of money, but I didn't have enough to make it, Transformers or whatever. And they told me about it, like, no, trust us. It's going to be like a dream state and it's like a memory. Trust us. I was like, all right, man. And I think it came out pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, and I when I was watching it, at first I was like, "Man, the smoke doesn't look that way," but then I was like, "Oh, wait, this is, like, kinda like like you're dreaming almost, like you're
Yeah.
seeing
It's
this,
a dream
like."
state. Yep.
And I was like, "Okay, this I'm on board with
Yeah.
this, like, this makes sense,
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
how it's all laid out." And, even, like, some of, like, the flashes of, like, when there's I forget if it was gunshots or an explosion or something, like,
Yeah.
you just need a red light and it just goes, and you could tell, like, okay, that's what's going on in this
Yeah.
particular situation. So, like, it totally made a ton of sense,
Yeah.
how that was done. But yeah, it is. It's almost like you're kind of dreaming about, like, what's going on, in the story,
Yeah. Like it's a
as it's
memory.
being
You're
told.
looking in their head.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
You're looking in their head. Yeah. It's
yeah,
kind of cool.
yeah, yeah. That's a good way to put it. Yeah. Um, and so these guys, they came on. They basically, you know, opened up about some of the darkest moments in
Yeah.
their lives and their history. Very intimate stories that they had to share. About what they went through, but also some of the struggles after serving. They talked about their, battles of anger and resentment,
Yeah.
and all these different things that they were going through. Um, but this was all done with the goal of, basically sparking a conversation about
Yep.
these things and connection amongst the veterans and the allies and supporters of the military community. So, like, this was all intentional, right? Like, this is what you want. You want these conversations to happen, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the goal, right? I mean, people I think come out of here when we talk. Sometimes we'll do viewings and we'll have panels, and they kind of wants to have an answer how to solve it.
Yeah,
That's not. We're not solving it, right? What we're doing is trying to start the conversation with everyone around it, and then also the conversation starts when veterans speak up.
yeah,
You have to talk about it. You have to speak up. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to break that stigma of it's okay not to be okay and talk to somebody, right?
yeah.
And that's the big thing with them. And then raise awareness around it's a little bit bigger than what you think. It's a little bit more than this and that, right? That's really what we're trying to do. That conversation is so key because then somebody smarter than me is going to figure it out, right?
Right,
So
right. Yeah, and, I think a lot of folks take this kind of approach, and this is kind of a military sort of approach as well, where, you're sort of leading from the front, where,
Yeah.
uh, you're going to the people who are experiencing the situations or dealing with these problems and be like, "Hey, what's your thoughts on this?
Hmm.
And what's that next guy's thought? And the next person, and the next
Hmm.
person, and the next person. We're what are your thoughts on how is this affecting you? What can we do better to help you and reintegrate you and get you
Yeah.
off on the right foot?" And if you ask just one person, you're gonna get one person's perspective, and
Yeah.
it may be okay, of an idea.
Yeah.
But when you ask, hundreds or thousands, you talk to
Hmm.
a lot of people, and you get all their ideas together, and you start, piecing them together, you're gonna find some common themes where
Yep.
it's like, hey, oh, I'm hearing this a lot. This is the thing that maybe I need to start paying a little bit more attention to.
Yeah.
Like you said earlier, PTSD is like one of those things where everyone's like, "Oh, well, a veteran took their life and their life must have been PTSD." That's
Yeah.
just a thing that they throw at it, right? But until they have their eyes open up to the fact that, um, maybe they felt that loss of community or
Yeah.
sense of purpose and belonging and all of that, they they don't even doesn't even occur to them that that could be the thing that's the
Yeah.
problem for them, and
Yeah.
um, so with that, um, you have this documentary, it's now opening people's eyes up to this possibility that, "Hey, man, there's something else out there."
Yeah.
And what do we do about it? Let's start talking about it, and so having
Hmm.
these screenings with the panels and everything that you just talked about, I think is, maybe even more important than the documentary itself,
It's
is because
huge.
now you're sparking these conversations. Because you can get someone like me who watches it once and it's like, that was a good documentary. Triggers some ideas in my head. That's cool. And that it's a good thing. I'm not taking away from that, um, but when you get a bunch of people together and you watch it, and then it's like, okay, um, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
And, we're not here to give the solution, but we're here to, help facilitate that conversation that may
Yep.
lead to a solution.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a hopefully not too simplistic view of what
No.
you're trying to do, but, that's kind of, the way I see it is like, this is a really good thing, is
Yeah.
getting these conversations to start happening,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and it raises questions, right? And especially the allies, they have the most questions. The veterans usually, when they're there, they usually speak up and relate to something, say, "This touched me for this way." You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Or maybe there were some veterans or that are still in that haven't gone to combat. They will be the ones that ask questions, but the allies are the ones that really, or the civilians are the ones that ask the most. And having that panel of like me, Wade, Michael, and I'll bring on some other guests like Herb Johnson, Jetta Deloria, Jackie Lofton, guys that were involved in the process with me, or guys I know really well that are authentic. Having that panel up there is huge. It's a lot of the times when we did like surveys for feedback of how we can do better, that was one of the things. Like the movie was amazing, but that panel was like the icing on the cake, right? So it's very
Yeah.
big, and even though it's out on streaming right now. We still are doing those panels, and we're still doing those viewings and bringing people together to do those things. So we're still trying to keep the mission going in that aspect.
Yeah, and I think rightfully so. I think you should, continue doing those types of panels because, like you said, that's the icing on the cake. That's
Yeah,
maybe the secret sauce that makes this. Um, you said this earlier. I don't think as we were recording, but I at some point you had said this. Maybe it was
yeah.
in the description, but you referred to the film as a force multiplier.
Force
Um,
multiplier. Yeah,
yeah, for addressing these issues that that folks are having, because it it it's out there. People can watch it, whether it's in a group setting like what you're talking about, or it's in a, in the privacy of their home, or they can, wherever they're watching it.
Yeah.
They can watch this thing, and it's not just one person, a one-on-one conversation the way you and I are talking right now. It's now it's out there for the whole world to see, if they
Yeah.
choose to. And now we can start having these conversations because people are getting a little bit more educated. Now that's the
Hmm.
beauty of the internet,
Yeah.
is we can get educated on topics, if we choose to. The downside of the internet is we can also get really stupid on topics because
Yeah. Yeah. You
we
can go down
choose not.
rabbit holes quick.
Yeah, exactly. But in the case like this, if someone's sitting there like, man, why are so many veterans taking their lives? Watch the documentary. You'll
Yeah.
find out a whole lot of information about what people are going through, what they went through,
Yeah.
in combat, but also what they're going through when they get back. And
Yeah.
that, I think, is the important piece that we miss, because
Yeah.
conceptually, I think a lot of people can maybe grasp a general idea of combat. They've watched The Saving Private Ryan, or
Yeah.
they have a general idea. Yeah, they can't get that gut wrenching feel that, when the
Yeah.
first bullet starts cracking over your head.
Yeah.
They don't get those feelings, and
Yeah.
the scared to death kind of emotions that
Yeah.
anyone who's been in combat could relate to. They don't get that, but as a general concept, they can understand that. But understanding like that sense of belonging and community,
Hmm.
and I'm not saying they can't understand that. It's just not the first thing that pops in mind when
No.
when you have these conversations, and
Yeah.
that's the thing that I think we need to do a better job at. And your
Yeah.
documentary does a great job at talking about that.
Yeah. And I
You know,
think they always relate combat to trauma, right? I think
yeah,
what they don't realize, what we're never going to experience again, is that high of adrenaline that only combat can give you.
you're right.
That is a drug, and we chased it as gunfighters, right? Like that
Yeah,
is it was so much fun until something bad happens.
yeah,
You try to compartmentalize the bad times, but nine times out of 10, the bad things didn't happen. 9 times out of 10, you got after the enemy. We are a better fighting force than they are.
yeah,
It's fun. It's what you that's what you practice to go to.
yeah,
Imagine, guys are joining during the time of not war and are what you're on a football team, you practice, never got to play under the lights, right? We
right.
got to play under the lights. And and when you come back, nothing. And I've told everyone this, nothing. You got to come to terms with, and that's why it's so important to find something else you're passionate about. Because if you don't, the rest of your life's going to be in first gear. And
Yeah,
that's when it starts going. And because that combat, and then, I mean, some of the crazy stuff you see in the barracks where nothing's off limits, like that, like any point in time when you're walking the 82nd Airborne, there's some drunk paratroopers PLF and off the third floor, and that's
right.
completely normal. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Or random brawls happen. Like it's a normal environment of adrenaline, and then you get into society, and it's not that. So I think a lot of us chase that dragon, go into it's like contracting like Wade did or something like that. And then that doesn't face it because contractors aren't gunfighters, right?
right.
They're security essentially. So that's the other piece, right? It's not always trauma. Trauma is a piece of it, but it's that chasing that dragon that
Yeah,
I think gets a lot of us, right?
yeah, and that adrenaline is, uh, I don't want to understate that. Like that
Yeah.
adrenaline is such a huge piece,
Yeah.
that you get back, and it's just like it gets sucked away from you. And you're right, it's a drug.
Yeah.
Imagine an addict, who's addicted to, whatever, pick your drug, um, and then all of a sudden the world supply of that drug is just disappears. And they're like,
Yeah.
"What the hell, man? Like, I
Yeah.
can't get that anymore?" Like,
Yeah.
that's like when
Yeah.
the global war on terror, like, when that
Yeah.
was, we pulled out of Afghanistan. And I'm not saying that we don't still have troops overseas, and they're still getting after it, but, you know, the supply of war had significantly dropped. Um,
Yeah.
and so now it's like, "Oh, okay, well, I'm probably not gonna get a chance to go to war unless something else pops off, right? I'm not going to get too many more chances to go over there. Where do I find this adrenaline rush?" And I don't know that we understand it as adrenaline, or do we do we think of it more of this is just how shit's supposed to be? Like this is the way life's supposed to be. Um, is that the way we get kind of reconditioned, or is it, um, or do we understand it as adrenaline, and do we seek that? Uh,
I don't
I'm
know.
not sure. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I know it's fun and it's hard to paintball, whatever. I was a paratrooper jumping out of airplanes. That's cool, but it's in the community, right? You're in like the world's biggest fraternity
Yeah,
around guys that you would never, you remember going to formations when guys would be in their civilian clothes?
yeah,
You got like gothic, rappers, country boys. You're like, what? You wear that? And you
right.
get to know people as a person. So you're not judging them because you all look the same.
Yeah,
Right? As far as like, their haircuts and, their uniform and stuff like that, right? You don't
right.
judge them by race or anything like that. You judge them by like, oh, Kershaw's a good dude. He's funny. He's a
Yeah,
private, go do private things, right? And society's not that way, unfortunately. And
right.
it's a lot more simplistic and more simple, right? You're not worrying about bills. You're not worrying about, HOA calling something on you. You're not worrying about anything but the mission. And it's really
Right.
just takes you outside of reality, and you spend a year there. It's not like a weekend, right? Or a week.
Yeah.
Spend a year there. That becomes normal. And it's hard to, come back to society when society is way different. So
Yeah, yeah, and I think you hit a good point there. Is uh, it's a totally different reality than
yeah,
what you experience in
real
normal day to day civilian life. You're right. You don't have to worry about bills when you're over
no,
there. You're
no.
not worried about, um, you know, whether the paint color that you chose for your house is the right color. That is the HOA going to come in,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
knock on
right.
your
Yeah.
door and be like, "Oh, no, this is like a shade off. You gotta repaint the
Yeah.
whole damn house." It's like, you don't have to worry about, is your trash can out at the right time,
Yeah.
for, trash
Yeah.
pickup or whatever. You don't have to worry about any of those things. It's you wake up, you go do your job,
Yeah.
and you either come back or you don't,
Yeah.
and then you go back to sleep, and then you rinse and repeat, and you
Yeah.
go do it again.
Yeah. And
Uh,
everywhere you had, if you had weights, if you were lucky enough to have weights there, you work out. It's literally like a warrior's paradise, right?
for sure.
It's
Yeah.
yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. You eat, and downtime, you kind of, smoke and joke with the guys, and
yeah.
you do those kind of things. But you don't have to worry about, Susie's got a dentist appointment, and I got to go
Yep.
take her. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff like that.
Nothing.
Um, unfortunately, that lands on the families. That's the stuff that
It
they still
does.
have to worry about.
Yeah, and
Um,
they deploy with you in their own way, right? And that's
right.
something else you come back to is that reintegration. And the military does a pretty good job of telling you this and trying to prepare you for that. Of like life is going on without you
Yeah.
there, and then you come and you disrupt it a little bit because you're so used to doing things a certain way, and now
Yeah.
you're trying to get back used to what life is. And then a lot of people, typically after you deploy, unless you go career, you're probably getting out shortly after that at some point. I mean, from a year in or 18 months in,
Yeah.
and you're still trying to reintegrate in your mind. And now you're getting thrusted not only into the military, CONUS, like back where it's safe and you're reintegrating and, you know, shaving every day and, showing up and, hurry up and wait. And then all of a sudden you got to do something at 5 p.m. when you've been doing nothing all day.
Right.
And and then you're out in real society. So it's just like
Yeah.
it happens quicker than what people think. And
Well,
I think that's
you
an
know,
issue.
and even folks like you said, you come back and you don't know your place really even in your own home.
Yeah.
You may
Yeah.
not recognize, where you fit in anymore. Before I deployed to Afghanistan, I was my uh, first time father. My wife gave birth
Hmm.
about a month before I deployed, um,
Yeah.
and I was off training most of that time. So I was
Hmm.
with son for about 10 days. I had got like 10 days of leave where I got to be home with them, and fortunately, I was able to be there for the birth. Um, but then, like I wasn't really dad because I was still like my mindset was I'm going to war. Like that's
Yeah,
where
yeah, yeah,
my
yeah,
mind needs to be, right? And I come back home. My wife had been mom, essentially acting as a single mom for the 9 months or so before I got back. Um, and now, how do I fit in? How do I fit in as a dad in this house? Like, what do I do? Like,
yeah.
it was just a strange
It's a
change in
strange feeling.
dynamic
Yeah,
because before I left, it was just me and her, and
yeah,
we had our routines and we had our everything, but now we had a baby. And it totally like disrupted all of that. Um,
yeah,
and and that's another thing that people just don't think about when you get back. It's like, oof, who am I even in my own home? Not
yeah.
just like in the world and society and whatever. It's like in my
Mhm.
own home, who am I? Where do I fit in? What do I do? What's expected of me? What's not expected of me? Like what am I expected to not have to worry about? Or
Yeah,
whatever the case may be, you have this change that goes on, and that takes its toll too on folks.
yeah,
And there's a lot of these conversations that need to have some airtime, I guess, if you will, for lack of better terms, to get that information out there to folks so that they understand that it's more complex than just PTSD. Uh, the things that the veterans are going through, it's more than just that. There's a lot of things going on, and we need to be aware of that so that way, when these issues pop up, we can help people, and we can do what's necessary so that they get the support that they need, right?
yeah. It's funny. Brandon, one half of the Borrego brothers, he's genius, like very smart, but he's like me. We're both kind of like bullheaded, right? And I remember we were going through like what we want tribal to be, and I'm like, it has to only speak to veterans. He's like, no, it's bigger than that, Mark. I'm like, no, I don't care what anybody thinks. I was like, care about the veteran. Blah, 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 blah. We're like going back and forth for like 2 hours, and then he said something to me that he's like, Mark, this is not a veteran issue. This is a societal issue. And then I stopped, and I was like, he's right.
Yeah,
This is bigger. This is a societal issue, right? Just how, in my opinion, society is just different than what it was 50 years ago. And, it's a lot of arguing, a lot of infighting, uh, a place that where we all came together for a common cause, regardless of race, gender, feeling, or how you acted, or whatever it was. We came together and we would protect each other with our own life, and then you come back to society and it's not like that. And I feel like we feel like a square peg in a round hole. And I
yeah,
think that's what he was getting at. It's a societal issue, Mark. It's not a veteran. It's a societal issue. We just happen to be one of the few people that get ripped from society for a long period of time. And then that's our reality.
that's
And I
right.
think he's right. I mean, I'm not an expert on it, but at face value, it makes sense to me. Right. So,
Yeah, it totally makes sense. I think the society as a whole had if you compare society like civilian society to military culture society, call it
yeah,
its own
yeah,
separate
yeah,
society, really.
yeah, yeah,
Um, compare the two, there's there's no comparison, really. I mean, they're like you said, in the military. I don't care what color your skin is, or what your
no,
religion is, or
no.
where you came from, uh,
Or how much money you
or
make.
how much money yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Like, I don't care if your parents are rich or poor, or, I don't
yeah,
I don't care about any of that stuff. I care, do you have my back?
yeah,
That I care about,
yeah,
and and
yeah.
and you should
Do you
know
do
that
your
I
job?
yeah, do you do your job? Do you,
Yeah,
um, you know, uh, all that kind of stuff. Like, that's the stuff that actually matters. That's the
yeah,
stuff that the answer to those questions are determine whether or not people are coming home in body bags. And
yeah,
I mean, that's a pretty significant uh, thing to think about. So when you get out into civilian society, and you got people who are bitching because their Starbucks order is wrong or
yeah,
something,
yeah,
like, who cares about that? Like, but
yeah,
to those people, that's important to them.
That's
That
important.
is that's their world, and that's
Yeah,
important to them. Um, but we look at it like that stuff, who cares? Like, give me the wrong
yeah,
thing. I don't really care. Just I'll take it and I'll deal with it. It's not that big of a
yeah,
deal.
yeah,
Um, and so we find that clash in society,
yeah,
and we, maybe rightfully so. We think "Hey, these people just don't understand us, and in a
yeah,
lot of cases they don't. But
yeah,
documentaries like yours, like Tribal, and other, ways of sharing stories like this, really help to shed some light on what's going on in the military culture to help people understand, that it's not just PTSD, that there's other issues out there, and we are still losing people, and that's the problem. We need to do better as society to help people who need the help and let them know it's okay to speak up and say, "Hey, I need help." There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I've done it.
yeah,
I'm sure, many people out there, they've done it. Um, just go get the help. Um,
yeah,
like you said, we're in a different place now than we were 50 years ago, 60 years ago, whatever. Where back then it was like, oh, you're going to talk to a psychologist. You must belong in the nut house, or that was
yeah.
the mindset back then. Um, it's not the case these days, and we've gotten better, but we still got some work to do.
Yeah.
We still need to change that stigma, right?
Yeah, and I think, and I don't know what it's. I've been out since 2013. But the more I thought about this, I was like, why are we like this? It starts when you join the military.
Yeah.
If I would have spoke up as an infantryman and said I had suicidal tendencies or issues, or I just want to talk to somebody, they take my weapon, they take my shoelaces, they take my belt, put a row guard vest on me in some areas, and basically I know they did.
Yep.
And then you'd have like 24-hour guard all the time. So now you're looked at like a leopard. Everyone's making fun of you. I can't do my job. I'm not a warrior just for asking for help. I don't know if it's still like that anymore. I haven't talked to anybody that's still in and asked them that. But if that's still like that, even half of that, it's never gonna. We're gonna be fighting the same problems over and over and over again because you're taking these guys that you have completely stripped what they are as a civilian, made them a warrior, turned them into a warrior.
Yeah.
Then you tell them warriors don't speak up, and you're going to be reprimanded, even though the chaplain's telling you to speak up. But nope, sergeant's telling you, that, your platoon daddy's like, you better not, or you're a pussy or whatever, right? Of
Right.
course, you're not going to speak up. And that's you're still identifying as that veteran when you come out. Of course, that's going to be ingrained in you as a warrior. And you're trying to hold on to what shred of a warrior you are. Of course, you're not going to speak up. So, like, it's got to change within the ranks and it's got to be more acceptable. And I understand that's a line that's hard to cross because you're taking guys to war and there's a certain mindset you have to have when you're going to war. And I understand that, but there's got to be a better way.
Yeah.
And we're losing, I should not be losing more people home to suicide than in Afghanistan or RC's province or, Anbar province in Iraq or whatever it was, where I
Sure.
should not be losing more people at home, in my opinion. We're not at war here. Like,
E
I don't
exactly.
get it.
I feel the same way. I mean, we for sure, lost more people here, um, and that and personally, I've lost more people here than I did overseas, and
Same.
as a military as a whole, just look at the numbers. I mean, I I I think it's 7, 8,000, something like that. I forget the exact number, that were lost, over there. And we come back and it's 22 a day. You just do the math over the course of 20 years. Um, that just doesn't compute. Like we're
Yeah.
losing a lot of people at home to this stuff. And you're right. You get those mixed messages. The chaplain telling you go talk to someone, and then the the drill sergeant, no, don't talk to anybody because
Yeah.
you're weak if you do, and blah blah blah, right? Yeah, I can understand some of the stuff, like if someone says, "Hey, next time we go to the range, I'm gonna shoot myself." Okay, yeah, you probably don't want to bring that guy to the range,
Yeah,
like
that makes sense,
that
right?
makes sense,
Yeah,
get
that
that
makes
guy some
sense.
help,
Yeah, you take him off the line till he's better, and if it's
yeah,
not for him, it's not for him.
Right.
but it was a statement of you don't say anything, right? You don't
Yeah.
talk about it.
Yeah.
And there are some that are like, oh, I'm gonna do this or I'm gonna do whatever. Yeah, you gotta take that seriously. You gotta
For sure.
separate them. That's a few cases, but
Yeah. You know,
for
and
all of us not to speak, yeah, I don't know.
I was listening to the Jocko podcast the other day,
Hmm.
and um, he said something that really made sense about this topic, about the concept that we all have, consider it like a cup, that
Hmm.
we can fill so much into that cup. And
Yeah.
everyone's cup is a different size. Some people have a shot glass, and some people have
Yeah.
a coffee mug, and some
Hmm.
people have a 5 gallon bucket, and we can put
Hmm.
only so much into those cups before they start to overflow.
Yeah.
And you're right. There's some people that you got a shot glass and you're going into the military. You're probably not going to make
Yeah.
and that's not going to be the right thing for you. But you got a bigger cup, and you got someone with a bigger cup. They're going to be okay, um, until that cup starts getting a little too full, and at that point, maybe take them off of that job, whatever it is that
Yeah.
high tempo job, the kicking indoors and all that kind of stuff. Take them off of that for a little bit. You need people to train people, so go have them go do that for a little bit, until
Yeah.
that cup comes down, that level comes down just a bit, and then in the meantime, hey, guess what? You got a little bit more downtime. Go talk to mental health. Go get your stuff situated. Whatever the situation is, go get that taken care of. And then you might be able to get back into that job. It's not saying, take your shoelaces away, have a
Hmm.
road guard vest on all the time, and have suicide watch 24/7, and all that. Most people don't. I'm not saying nobody needs that, but most people don't need that. Most people
Yeah.
just need to take a break from
No.
all of that, because we're not, as humans, uh, we're not built for war. Like, that's not, we
No.
shouldn't be thrust into that for long extended periods.
Yeah.
We're built for, the short hunts of,
Yeah.
let's go, kill that tiger, or, whatever. And now we have meat for, a week or more.
Yeah.
We don't have to worry about that again for a little bit. We're not built for that,
Yeah.
extended amount of intense adrenaline rush,
Yeah.
that combat gives, right?
Yeah. And again, maybe it's, and I don't know what the numbers of guys in service that do it are as opposed to veterans. I haven't gotten down in the data at that point, but maybe it's just getting more and capturing more when they get out.
Yeah,
Wade said something in the documentary that to me it's the best line in the documentary. It says the military does a great job of turning civilians into warriors or killers, but doesn't do a great job of turning warriors into quote unquote normal.
yeah,
They think teaching you how to write a resume is proper reintegration training, right?
sure.
Okay. So maybe there just needs to be like, when guys are A capping, right? 6 months, they're not 6 months out. You're done with your job. 6 months out, unless you're realistic, you're done with your job, like regardless of what it is. Now it's 6 months of reintegration.
Yeah,
And maybe that's it, right? Because remember when you're ACAP, well, in the actual like active duty, when you're ACAP and you're still going to the range, you're still doing stuff. That's just, hey, I got an appointment here, I got an appointment here, I got an appointment. Not till like the last month, maybe they're leaving you alone, depending on what unit you're at, right? If you're
right.
NCO, it's a little bit harder because they put you on staff duty and all this stuff. But maybe that's it. Maybe it's a mandate of like you don't touch these guys 6 months out and you put them with a bunch of guys like them, that maybe there's a program built around that. I don't know. Maybe that's a dumb
Yeah.
idea, but
No,
something needs to be different in that reintegration process. You know what I mean?
I don't think that's a dumb idea at all. I think that's definitely something that should be considered. That we take that, and a time frame. There's people smarter than me who could figure out. Is it 6 months? Is it 3 months? Is it I
Yeah,
don't know.
whatever it is.
Whatever the time frame is, to me that doesn't matter. But putting something in place where we can see, uh, that we actually give a damn about this transition,
Yeah.
and this reintegration and all that kind of stuff. Right? Like, that we're not going to uh, just push you out the door and here's your
Yeah.
DD 214. Give us back our shit and get out of here.
Yeah.
Get on your way.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
gonna we actually give a damn about you as a person and what you're gonna be. Maybe it's something kind of like like AA where you get a sponsor and
Yeah.
you have like a maybe a veteran sponsor. Someone who's been
Yeah, like a
through that.
mentor or something like
Like
that.
yeah, yeah. Maybe sponsors maybe the wrong way
Same
to think
same
of it.
thing. I
Same
know what you're
idea.
talking about, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, same thing.
Um, but
Yeah.
but it's like we've been there before. Like I've been through that through the getting out and happy to help where I can, if I can't help because it's outside of my skill set or whatever, I can at least help point you in the right direction and
Yeah.
say, hey, those people over there, they're the ones who are able to help, with XYZ, whatever issues you might
Yeah.
be having. Maybe it's financial issues or, you know, career transition, that type of thing. Not knocking the military for what they do. Obviously learning how to write a resume, it's an important
Yeah, it's a
thing
skill.
to
It's a
know.
skill set.
Uh, and when you got people who've been in the military for 20 years, and that's the only job that they've ever had is in the military, from the time they were 18 till, the time they got out, they've never written a resume. They never had to.
Yeah.
And now
They
you
don't know
got
what to wear to an interview.
yeah, exactly, because they've never been to one. They never needed to go to an
Yeah.
interview. So
Yeah.
you got a 38-year-old guy who doesn't know how to write a resume or what to wear to an
Yeah.
interview, or how to even, act in an interview. Like what are you supposed to do when you get there? Yeah,
Yeah.
all that stuff's important, but there's other stuff that's important too. Yeah, I think is the point. And
Yeah.
having somebody there um to help you out because the classes that they give you and everything, it's like drinking from a fire hose. You're not going to remember all that stuff. But
Yeah.
having a mentor or sponsor, whatever you want to call it, somebody who you can call up and be like, just ask some questions when those questions come up. Because they're not going to come up while you're sitting in a classroom. They're going to come up 6 months down the road or a year down the road or, 2 years down the road where it's like, hey, now I'm having this question. Who do I talk to? There's
Yeah.
the military doesn't give you a phone number of people to call, 2 years later that you can call
Yeah.
and be like, "Hey, I need help with," whatever the issue is. But having a mentor, I think that would actually be a pretty good idea
That
and
makes
have
sense.
and doing that
Yeah.
with that, like, 6 months out where you get to kinda introduce yourself to that person and, maybe
Yeah.
combined with what you're talking about, I think that would help out, tremendously.
Yeah. I
But
mean, you have
but the
someone guiding them.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's
It's something needs to change because it's
for
all
sure.
about get it. Like they do a little bit. Do you need help? Talk about it, blah, blah, blah. But it's some lady that's never, or man or whatever,
Yeah, and
typically was not relating to you, telling you to
right,
go talk. Right. So
yeah,
they need like develop something of guys that have done it that want to help because also what that does, if you get dudes and gals that were in combat that are struggling and you put them in that mentorship, because what I mean by struggling, they could be successful professionally
yeah,
and still be struggling. And
for sure.
now you're giving them it's a spiral effect. You're giving them just like tribal, right? When people watch it, they feel like they're a part of the tribe and it gives them
Yeah,
a purpose. And maybe that helps because you're giving veterans that want to help, they don't really know how to, or they don't believe in all this stuff. You're giving the ones that did struggle a purpose to help others. So it's like a spiral effect. You're helping those people too. That's why veterans help. Makes us feel good, right? And gives us a purpose. We
yeah,
want to help because it's naturally in us.
and I was talking to somebody else, a little while ago, and, that we were talking about how, the helping other people, not only does it help that person,
Yeah.
who is struggling with whatever they're going
Mhm.
through, it helps you too,
Yeah, it does.
because you feel good when you are helping other people. And like there's that we shouldn't underestimate like how powerful that is. Um,
Hmm.
you know, that feel good thing about that um makes you have that sense of purpose again.
Yeah.
You're now you're now doing this for somebody else. You're doing this to make sure that that person succeeds. You don't want that.
Yeah.
You don't want to let that person down.
Yeah.
And you talk about like reducing the suicide rate. When you have a purpose and a mission, and that person is depending on me to be there for him to show up.
Man,
Well,
I'm gonna be
damn it,
there.
I'm going to show up.
Yeah.
I'm there. And that's maybe one of the pieces that we're missing. I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It's got to be better than what they're doing now, in
But
my opinion.
here's the thing with all of this, we're having that conversation right now, and
Yeah, it's
it's
true. We're
right
talking
now it's
about it.
just two guys having a conversation. Two guys who've seen combat, who've had people who in their lives who've struggled, and unfortunately, we've lost some people along the way, and we're having a conversation about this. Somebody else who might be listening, this might spark an idea in their
Yeah.
head, and they're like, "Hey, I got a great idea based on what I just listened to from this conversation. I'm going to go do this thing, or I'm going to go
Yeah.
talk to other people about this thing, and it's going to spark something." And the more conversations we have like this, and like the conversations that you had in the documentary and Tribal, um,
Mhm.
the more conversations we have, the more good ideas will come from it. Yeah, and guess what? We're gonna get some
Agree.
bad ideas coming from it too. But guess
Yeah.
what? Those bad ideas we'll figure out real quick. They're bad ideas, and we're just not
Yeah,
gonna do them,
exactly.
right? But we're gonna get better ideas the more conversations we have. So we got to keep talking about this, and that's I think the point of Tribal, and I'm really appreciative of you and everybody who was involved in it for putting it together and getting it out there so that we can have these
Yeah.
conversations, and it's sparks the conversations anyways, right?
Yeah. No, that's what it's about. What we just went through in this conversation. That's why we did it, right? And
Yeah,
I hope many more come out of it.
absolutely. So before we wrap up,
Mhm.
I want to give you a chance to let people know where they can go check out Tribal. I know you said it was streaming. Where can
Yeah.
they find it? And what any other piece of information you might want to share, either about it or anything about
Yeah.
what we talked about today.
Yeah, absolutely. Real quick, you can stream it on Amazon Prime, Apple TV, Vudu, or if you have like Verizon or Comcast, it's on video and on demand today too. And anyone that's just looking to watch an authentic documentary that doesn't pull any punches, that tells you what I believe and others is the real issue of what's going on and how we actually feel. Um, it's not political, it's not left or right. It is the truth and nothing but the truth. So help us God, right? And then for the veterans, hopefully it gives you a sense that you're not alone in this fight. We're all here with you. We've all gone through it, regardless of rank or whatever it is or whatever unit you were in. We've all gone through it.
Yeah,
And then for the civilians, it gives you a little bit of an idea, a glimpse into that life so you can understand and give a sense of clarity of maybe how to approach or how to identify it. So anyone that wants to watch it, um, you know, I welcome you to.
absolutely. And that's what I got from it when I watched it. It just it's raw, it's real. It
Yeah.
tells people the story of
Yeah.
these folks who were featured in the documentary, and it did a great job telling their stories, and I think prompting these conversations to help
Absolutely.
spark some sort of maybe we'll find a solution. Maybe we won't, but maybe we'll get that conversation going uh, to uh, to lead us to something that resembles a solution, anyways.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
so before we wrap this episode up, I know a lot of times these conversations that we have, they can be a little
Hmm.
dark, a little heavy, and sometimes we need a little humor at the end of the day
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
make us laugh a little bit. I like to do a segment, especially when I have another veteran on the show, called
Yeah.
"Is it Service Connected?" And it's we just take a view at a funny video of some service member doing something stupid or falling, or kind of think of it like America's Funniest Home Videos, where
Okay.
people do stupid things and we get to laugh at it. And
Cool.
I don't think there's anyone better to laugh at other military folks than other military folks. So so
100%.
when we watch these things, we like to laugh at each other, and it's all good natured. It's all in fun. So I'm gonna pull this video up here so you can take a look. Um, and usually they're just real quick, short videos. And so for the audio listeners here, I'll try to share what's going on. Looks like there's a soldier on some sort of obstacle course, like a bar he's about to jump over. Let's take a look and see what happens. He's about to
Oh,
jump,
man.
and he hits
Bam.
his
There it
gut.
is.
Yep, nails it right. He hits his gut right on the bar and falls
Yeah.
right into the water, the muddy, murky water down below.
Oh, yeah. That looked
uh,
like, that looked like Ranger School, man. It's
yeah,
terrible.
yeah,
That's
that looked like, yeah, it looked like he was all like, got the face paint on. He was ready to go. He's,
he was ready to roll.
he
Yeah.
was ready to
That's like,
tackle that thing until it
you ever
gave him the
tried
gut
that
check.
that obstacle? You ever tried that
That's
obstacle?
not
That
easy.
thing's that's not easy, man. I'm
No.
that guy. I'm
Yeah.
that guy that hits it straight chest and I fall and then I just try to like weasel my way around it and
Yeah.
move
Right.
on. Maybe they'll give me a pass. Yeah, that's not an easy obstacle. You gotta
That's
actually
not
be an
easy.
athlete, which most of us aren't.
No, no, and that's the thing. I don't think many people realize this. Like when you talk about military, you're thinking like the elite, like they're thinking
Yeah.
Navy SEAL. Like they're thinking like the elite of the elite, like the top,
Yeah.
physical condition. I've served with some guys who are not that.
No, and even like
I wasn't that either. I'm not saying I was
yeah.
some super soldier or anything either, but my gosh, like there are some people there are not that. So that
And
I
even the top of the top, like they're mentally tough and they can run and ruck forever. But
yeah.
get an infantry company playing organized basketball, and you'll see some just I got the ball, I got the ball, I got the ball. Just like running down the thing. Like these
Yeah.
guys, can run 10 miles, 2 miles, and ruck forever and do whatever. But like you get them playing a coordination sport, it ain't there.
No, it's
It ain't
not.
there at
Yeah,
all.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Um,
Yeah.
so so yeah, that one there, I mean, it looks like he got probably the wind knocked out of him as he hit that
Oh, that was
pole,
bad.
but
That was
I don't
bad.
think any service connection there unless he, landed on his head wrong or something like that in the water, but he's
No,
probably okay. So I think he'll
no,
be.
egos hurt. That's about it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Well, especially if it's caught on video.
Oh yeah. And that looked
That's
like
getting replayed.
BDUs too, so that's been, like,
That's old
infamous
school.
for, like, 30 years, so,
Yeah.
yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, yeah,
That sucks.
basically sucks for that
It's
guy.
yeah,
It's
sucks to
caught
be
on
you.
video,
Yeah.
but you know what? He'll be okay. I think. I
Yeah,
think at the end of the day, everything's all
and
right
drink
there. So
water, you'll be fine.
yeah,
Builds character,
exactly.
right?
Yeah, change your socks.
Yeah,
They're
change your
wet now.
socks, you'll be alright.
All right. Well, thank you again, Mark, for not only for taking the time to come on the show and share your story, but for putting out that documentary, Tribal. Again, I'll have a link to it for the folks who want to check it out. Check it out on Amazon Prime and Apple TV and all the other places that Mark
Yeah,
mentioned earlier. I'll have links to that in the show notes for folks to check out the show. Definitely check it out. I highly encourage it. So thank you again for everything that you do.
awesome. Yeah, thanks for having me, it was great. Have a good one.
Thanks for listening to the Drive On podcast. If you want to support the show, please check out Scott's book, Surviving Son, on Amazon. All of the sales from that book go directly back into this podcast and work to help veterans in need. You can also follow the Drive On podcast on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts.